In Germany, the 1930s were a time of rising tension, bold ambitions, and political maneuvering. Adolf Hitler had shaken the nation by rejecting the Treaty of Versailles and rebuilding Germany's military might. His popularity soared, but not everyone in power shared his vision. Some of Germany's top military and diplomatic leaders, War Minister von Blomberg, Army Chief von Fritsch, and Foreign Minister von Neurath, were deeply concerned. Hitler's rapid plans for expansion, they warned, could spark a war with Britain and France, one Germany wasn't ready for. But Hitler had other ideas. In a bold move, he removed the opposition. Von Neurath was replaced by the unwavering Nazi, Joachim von Ribbentrop. Von Blomberg and von Fritsch were pushed out under scandalous allegations, and Hitler placed himself in direct command of the Wehrmacht. Germany was now under his personal control. Next, Hitler's gaze turned to Austria, his birthplace. He considered it a vital part of a greater Germany. In February 1938, he pressured Austrian Chancellor Kurt Schuschnigg to install leading Nazis in key government roles, including the police and economy. Under immense pressure, Schuschnigg announced a referendum to let Austrians vote on a union with Germany, the Anschluss. But Hitler expected the vote to go against him, so he demanded Schuschnigg's resignation and ordered German troops to the border. Schuschnigg stepped down on March 11th. The next day, German forces entered Austria, ostensibly to maintain order. The new Austrian Chancellor, Arthur Seyss-Inquart, a loyal Nazi, instructed Austrian forces not to resist. The result? A nation divided. Many Austrians welcomed the Germans enthusiastically. Hitler visited his hometown before making a dramatic entry into Vienna on March 14th. A rigged referendum later confirmed almost unanimous support for the Anschluss. But behind the celebrations, the Nazis began a brutal crackdown. Political opponents were arrested, including former Chancellor Schuschnigg. Jewish citizens faced beatings, forced public humiliations, and even murder. The world watched in shock, but Britain and France's protests accomplished little. By May 1938, Hitler's ambitions expanded further toward Czechoslovakia. The Sudetenland, home to over 3 million ethnic Germans, was his next target. He planned a swift campaign to annex the region, test his military, and dismantle what he called a fake nation created by Versailles. France and the Soviet Union had pledged to defend Czechoslovakia, but Britain was hesitant. Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain hoped that warnings alone could restrain Hitler. Rumors of German troop movements created panic across Europe. Civilians feared imminent bombings. Gas masks were prepared. By early autumn, Germany was ready to launch Case Green, its plan to invade Czechoslovakia. Hitler believed Britain and France would stay out, and he was mostly correct. Even so, some German generals worried. They warned that French intervention could quickly break Germany's defenses. But Hitler ignored them, confident in his plans. Czechoslovak President Edvard Beneš sought help, but Britain and France, prioritizing peace, demanded concessions instead. Chamberlain took the unprecedented step of flying to Germany, hoping to resolve the Sudetenland crisis without war. The Munich Conference followed. Germany, Italy, Britain, and France attended. Czechoslovakia and the Soviet Union were excluded. The result, the Sudetenland was ceded to Germany. Hitler proclaimed he had no further territorial ambitions, but this peace only delayed the inevitable. While Europe tried to hold its breath, Spain's civil war raged on. Republican forces suffered devastating losses against Franco's nationalists, facing brutal offensives that split their territory. In Germany, the murder of a German diplomat triggered Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. Hundreds of Jews were killed, 30,000 arrested, and synagogues, cemeteries, and businesses destroyed. The world recoiled, but little was done to stop the escalating brutality. Across the globe, Japan's invasion of China continued. Battles raged over Suzhou and Wuhan, drawing over 1 million soldiers into combat. Chinese forces, though numerous, faced a technologically superior enemy, including the use of poison gas. In a desperate move, Chiang Kai-shek ordered the flooding of the Yellow River, sacrificing nearly 1 million civilians to slow the Japanese advance. Cities fell, resources were seized, but Chinese resistance continued, forcing Japan into a costly stalemate. 1938 was a year of tension, fear, and staggering human cost. Europe and Asia teetered on the brink of full-scale war. Hitler's ambitions were unchecked. Appeasement policies only emboldened him, and the world watched, powerless to prevent the storm that was coming. The countdown to World War II had begun. If you want to dive deeper into the slide to war in Europe, the Nazi-Soviet pact, Japan's campaign in China, and invasion of Poland, make sure to check out our full series on YouTube. Subscribe to follow every episode as the story unfolds.
Mi hijo, ¿dónde está mi hijo?